The sound of my mother's footsteps in the hospital corridor that night slow, uneven, fading taught me that some sounds can rewrite your entire life. Now, listening to different footsteps approaching the classroom door, I understood that destiny sometimes announces itself with nothing more than the rhythm of someone walking. I pressed my fingertips against the worn leather of Mom's journal, hidden beneath my algebra textbook. The pages inside held her life's work, 20 years of studying predators, understanding their patterns, recognizing their escalation tactics. Dr. Elena Martinez had dedicated her career to giving voice to the voiceless, to exposing those who operated in shadows. Cancer took her before she could finish her book, but her notes remained, teaching me things no 17-year-old should need to know. The morning Ohio sun slanted through Ridgemont High's windows, casting long shadows across the hallway floor. 3 weeks into my senior year at this new school, and I'd already learned its unspoken rules. Football players owned these halls. Their letter jackets might as well have been royal robes. Their crude jokes, the law of the land. At the apex of this twisted kingdom sat Brian Mitchell, quarterback, homecoming king, and the reason my hands trembled slightly as I approached my locker. Every predator has a pattern. Mom's voice echoed in my memory, clear as if she stood beside me. Every victim has a voice. Find the pattern. Amplify the voice. If you're feeling that rush of what's going to happen next, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you want to share where you're watching from, drop it in the comments below. For those who want to support more stories like this one, there's a thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me bring you more inspiring tales of courage and standing up for what's right. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. I spun my combination lock, trying to ignore the cluster of red and gold jerseys approaching. My mistake hadn't been refusing Brian Mitchell. My mistake had been doing it intelligently. It happened last Tuesday in the cafeteria. Brian had sauntered over, his pack trailing behind like hyenas sensing a meal. He'd leaned against my table, cologne overwhelming, that practiced smile spreading across his face. "Rebecca Martinez," he'd said, rolling my name around like candy. "New girl, I've been watching you." The words themselves weren't threatening. The delivery was. The way his eyes traveled over me like I was property for sale. The casual assumption that his attention was a gift I should be grateful for. "I'm sure you have," I'd replied, not looking up from my book. "Friday night. Party at Connor's Lake House. You're coming with me." Not a question. A declaration. This was the moment I should have giggled, should have blushed, should have played the role of honored female grateful for the king's attention. Instead, Mom's training kicked in. "Brian," I'd said, finally meeting his eyes, "you're standing with your feet planted wide, classic dominance display. Your friends have positioned themselves to block escape routes, pack hunting behavior. The way you're leaning in violates personal space to establish control. Classic predatory escalation pattern. Starting with boundary testing to see if I'll comply with small violations before moving to larger ones." The cafeteria had gone silent. Someone dropped a tray. "I've seen this pattern before." I'd continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Test boundaries. Isolate target. Escalate demands. Punish resistance. So no, I won't be going to Connor's party. And if you're smart, you'll reconsider your approach to asking girls out. This isn't charming. It's textbook sexual harassment." The silence that followed was deafening. Brian's face had turned the color of his jersey deep red, fading to white. His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. Then, worst of all, people had laughed. Not with him. At him. The king had been dethroned by the new girl who talked like a psychology textbook. Now, 3 days later, I understood the price of that moment. "Hey, Martinez!" I didn't turn, kept loading books into my locker, counting my breaths. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. "I'm talking to you, bitch." The word hit like a physical blow, but I'd been called worse. In the reflection of my locker mirror, I watched Brian approach, flanked by 3 teammates: Connor Walsh, Tyler Brooks, Marcus Chen, each one built like a small building, each one wearing that same predatory smile. "That was really cute the other day," Brian said, stopping just close enough that I could smell his mint gum over cologne. "The little speech, psychology bullshit. Your mom teach you that?" My hand stilled on my textbook. Mom had been gone 11 months. Most people didn't know about her work, about how she'd spent her final weeks writing frantic notes about teen harassment patterns, desperate to leave me prepared for a world she knew could be cruel. "Actually, yeah," I said quietly. "She did." Something flickered across Brian's face. Surprise. Maybe. He hadn't expected honesty. "Well, she did a shit job, because you clearly don't understand how things work here." I closed my locker, turned to face them. 4 against 1, blocking my path. Other students hurried past, eyes averted. The bystander effect in action, another pattern Mom had documented. "I understand perfectly," I said. "You're upset because I exposed your behavior publicly. Your social standing took a hit. Now you need to reassert dominance to restore your position in the hierarchy. This is retaliation, not random bullying." Connor laughed, but it sounded forced. "Jesus, she really does talk like a textbook." "Shut up," Brian snapped. Then, "To me, you think you're so smart. Think you've got us all figured out, but you're just another stuck-up bitch who needs to learn her place." He stepped closer. I held my ground, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. Running would trigger chase instinct. Showing fear would escalate aggression. "My place," I repeated. "And where exactly is that?" "On your knees," Tyler suggested. And they all laughed. "Or on your back," Marcus added. "Or maybe," Brian said, his voice dropping low, "just out of this school entirely. See, Martinez, you don't belong here. Don't know why you transferred in, don't care. But Ridgemont has a certain culture, and girls who don't respect that culture, they don't last long." The bell rang. Students scattered to classes, but Brian's pack didn't move. "You're going to be late," I observed. "So are you." We stood there, locked in silent battle. I thought of Mom in her hospital bed, still analyzing behavior patterns even as the morphine made her words slur. "Never back down from a bully, mija. They're like sharks, they can smell fear, but they can also sense strength. Make them work for every inch." "Move," I said simply. Brian's smile was all teeth. "Make me." This was it, the physical escalation. But before I could respond, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Slow, measured, authoritative. Brian's pack shifted, suddenly uncomfortable. Miss Thompson rounded the corner, her heels clicking against linoleum. The school's Title IX coordinator was a small woman who somehow managed to fill any space she entered. Her eyes took in the scene, 4 football players surrounding 1 female student, and her expression hardened. "Gentlemen," she said, the word dripping with irony, "I believe you have a class to attend." We were just talking, Brian said smoothly. I'm sure you were. Move along. They dispersed, but not before Brian whispered, This isn't over. Ms. Thompson waited until they were gone, then turned to me. Rebecca Martinez. I nodded. Walk with me. We moved down the hallway, her heels marking time like a metronome. She didn't speak until we were out of earshot of any lingering students. I heard about the cafeteria incident, she said finally. Which version? The true one, I hope. Several students reported it to me, said you handled yourself impressively. I just told the truth. Dangerous thing to do in high school. She paused at her office door. Your mother was Dr. Elena Martinez. The question caught me off guard. You knew her. We consulted on a case 2 years ago. Teen athlete sexually assaulted 3 girls. Your mother's behavioral analysis was instrumental in establishing the pattern of predation. Brilliant woman. I was sorry to hear about her passing. Tears threatened, but I blinked them back. Thank you.
Oh, she'd be proud of how you handled Brian Mitchell. But, Rebecca, Ms. Thompson's voice grew serious. Boys like Brian don't take public humiliation well. And when they have institutional support, when they're protected by coaches and boosters and tradition, they can be dangerous. I know. Do you? Because knowing intellectually and experiencing it are 2 different things. I've been investigating complaints about the football team for months. There's a pattern harassment, intimidation, worse, but victims won't come forward, too scared, too isolated. She handed me a business card. My direct number. Use it if you need to, and Rebecca document everything. Your mother would tell you, patterns don't lie. I finished. Ms. Thompson smiled sadly. Exactly. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of whispers and stares. News traveled fast at Ridgemont. The new girl had stood up to Brian Mitchell and lived to tell about it. Some looked at me with admiration, others with pity. Most just looked away. By lunch, I'd learned to recognize the signs. Books knocked from my hands Tyler's doing. Crude drawings taped to my locker Connor's artistic contribution. Whispers of frigid bitch and lesbian and worse following me through the halls. I documented it all in a small notebook, using Mom's coding system. Time, date, perpetrator, witnesses, exact words used, building a case, even as the harassment built in intensity. The bathroom incident happened during 5th period. I'd waited until class was well underway, hoping for privacy. But as soon as I entered the 2nd-floor girls' room, I knew I'd miscalculated. 3 girls stood by the sinks: Brittany Coleman, Ashley Price, Megan Torres, Brian's female enforcement squad. Well, Brittany said, examining her manicure, the girl who thinks she's too good for Brian Mitchell. I moved toward a stall, but Ashley blocked my path. Where are you going? We're talking to you. I need to use the restroom. You need to apologize, Megan corrected. Do you have any idea what you've done? Brian could have any girl in this school. He chose you. And you embarrassed him. He embarrassed himself. Wrong answer. Brittany's face twisted with rage. You think you're so special, some stuck-up bitch from wherever you came from, walking in here like you own the place. I just want to be left alone. Too bad. See, when you disrespect Brian, you disrespect all of us, the team, the school, everything Ridgemont stands for. Ashley stepped closer. Maybe you need a lesson in school spirit. I calculated angles, exits, potential weapons, 3 of them, 1 of me. But physical confrontation would only escalate things, give them ammunition to paint me as the aggressor. I'm leaving, I said, turning for the door. Megan's hand shot out, grabbing my hair, yanking me backward.
Pain exploded across my scalp as she dragged me toward the sinks. "You're not going anywhere until you learn some respect." I could have fought back. Mom had made sure I knew basic self-defense, but I also knew the system. 3 witnesses against 1, all of them popular, all of them connected. So I went limp, let them shove me around, documented every word, every action. "Pathetic," Brittany spat. "Can't even fight back. No wonder your mom died. Probably couldn't stand having such a weak daughter." The words hit harder than any physical blow. My vision blurred tears or rage. I couldn't tell. "Oh, did I hit a nerve?" Brittany's voice turned syrupy sweet. "What kind of mother leaves her daughter all alone? Must not have loved you very much." "Shut up." The words escaped before I could stop them. "Or what? You'll analyze us to death. Give us another little psychology lecture." They laughed, high and cruel. Ashley released me with a shove, and I stumbled, catching myself on the sink. "This is your warning," Megan said. "Apologize to Brian. Publicly, or things get worse. A lot worse." They left me there, shaking with rage and grief, in the mirror. My reflection looked hollow, red-rimmed eyes, tangled hair, the ghost of a girl who used to trust the world. I thought of Mom, of her final days when the pain medication wasn't enough, when she'd grip my hand and whisper observations about the nurses, the doctors, anyone who entered her room. Even dying, she couldn't stop seeing patterns, couldn't stop trying to understand human behavior. "People reveal themselves in how they treat the vulnerable," she'd said. "Watch how someone treats a waitress, a homeless person, someone they perceive as beneath them. That's their true character." By that measure, Ridgemont High was revealing itself clearly. The afternoon brought more escalation. My gym clothes disappeared from my locker, replaced with a note, "Sluts don't deserve clothes." My car tires were deflated, not slashed. Too much evidence, just deflated enough to make me late. Anonymous messages flooded my phone, each one more vicious than the last. But I kept documenting, kept building the pattern. It was 7th period when everything changed. AP Biology, my sanctuary. Usually, science made sense in ways people didn't. But today, when I entered the classroom, the atmosphere was different, charged, electric with anticipation. Brian sat in the back row, surrounded by his pack. They never took AP Bio. This was deliberate invasion. I took my usual seat, opened my notebook, tried to focus on cellular respiration. But I could feel their eyes on me, could hear their whispered planning. Mr. Peterson, ancient and half-deaf, droned on about mitochondria. Students took notes or dozed or texted beneath their desks. Normal classroom sounds, except for the undercurrent of menace from the back row. 20 minutes into class, it started. Woof! Soft, almost inaudible. I didn't react. Woof! Woof! Louder now. A few students turned, confused. "Hey, Martinez!" Brian's voice, fake friendly. "You hear that? Sounds like there's a dog in here." Snickers from his pack. Mr. Peterson continued lecturing, oblivious. "Yeah," Tyler agreed. "Definitely a dog. A real bitch." More laughter. Other students shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. The bystander effect in full force. "You know what we do with dogs that don't behave?" Brian asked. "We train them." I kept my eyes on my notebook, pen moving steadily. Document everything. Build the pattern. "Hey, Martinez, I'm talking to you." I looked up, met his eyes steadily. "I'm trying to learn something you might consider." Wrong move. His face darkened. "Get up," No. I said, get up. Mr. Peterson finally noticed the disruption. Is there a problem? Mr. Mitchell, no problem, Brian smiled. Just discussing the lesson. You know, about organisms and their natural behaviors. Well, discuss quietly. He turned back to the board. Brian stood, moving toward my desk with predatory grace. You know what your natural behavior should be? Martinez obedience. Like a good little bitch. I stayed seated, even as he loomed over me. Other students watched with the fascinated horror usually reserved for car crashes. Stand up, he commanded. No. His hand slammed down on my desk. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Mr. Peterson spun around. Mr. Mitchell. Sorry, Mr. P. Just dropped my textbook. He hadn't brought a textbook. Martinez here was just about to help me with something. Weren't you? This was escalating beyond anything I'd anticipated. Physical intimidation in front of witnesses, with a teacher present. Either Brian had lost control, or he felt so protected he didn't care about consequences. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said clearly. Oh, I think you are. His voice dropped low, menacing. See, you owe the team an apology, and you're going to give it right now. Mr. Mitchell, return to your seat immediately, Mr. Peterson demanded. Brian ignored him. Get up. I thought of Mom, of her notes about escalation patterns. This was the crisis point, the moment when backing down meant permanent victim status, but fighting back meant potential violence. Make me, I said, echoing his words from this morning. His hand moved to my arm, gripping hard enough to bruise. Wrong answer. That's when Connor spoke up. Brian, dude, Peterson's watching. I don't care. His grip tightened. This bitch needs to learn. Mr. Mitchell, Peterson's voice cracked with outrage. Release her immediately. She's coming with us, Brian announced. Team business. She's staying right here, or you're all going to the principal's office. Brian laughed. You think Principal Morrison's going to do anything to me? To us. We're going to state this year. I'm looking at full rides to Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame. You really think anyone cares about some nobody transfer student? The casual cruelty of it. The absolute confidence in his untouchability. This was the system Mom had fought against her entire career. Let go of me, I said quietly. Or what? Or I scream. And unlike your other victims, I won't stop. I'll scream until security comes, until parents hear, until news vans show up. I'll make such a scene that even your precious boosters can't make it go away. We stared at each other, locked in silent battle. The classroom held its breath. Then, from the back row, Marcus started barking. Woof, woof. Tyler joined in. Woof, woof, woof. Soon all four of them were barking, laughing, creating a cacophony of animalistic sounds. Other students looked horrified, but some infected by mob mentality began to laugh. Make her bark, someone called out. Make the bitch bark, Mr. Peterson was shouting, threatening suspensions, but his voice was lost in the chaos. Brian's grip on my arm turned painful. You heard them. Bark. No. Bark, or I'll make your life hell. You already are. This is nothing. His face was inches from mine, breath hot with rage. You have no idea what I can do. What we can do. Girls have transferred out for less than what's coming your way. Then I'll be the first one who doesn't. The barking grew louder, more insistent. Someone started chanting, Make her bark! Make her bark! This was it. The moment of complete humiliation they'd orchestrated. Public degradation designed to break my spirit. Establish their dominance. Make me compliant. I thought of Mom's journal entry from 3 years ago. Forced animalistic behavior is a classic dehumanization technique. By making victims act like animals, perpetrators psychologically categorize them as less than human, making further abuse easier to rationalize. "Last chance," Brian hissed. "Bark, and this ends. Refuse, and—" The classroom door opened. The barking stopped instantly, like someone had hit a switch. Every head turned toward the entrance. Ms. Thompson stood in the doorway, her expression carved from stone. Behind her, 2 security officers waited. "Mr. Mitchell," she said, her voice cutting through the sudden silence, "remove your hand from Ms. Martinez immediately." Brian released me, stepping back. "We were just— I know exactly what you were doing." She entered the room, heels clicking ominously. "I've been standing outside for the past 5 minutes, recording everything." The color drained from Brian's face, from all their faces. "Mr. Mitchell? Mr. Walsh? Mr. Brooks? Mr. Chen? You'll come with security now. The rest of you who participated in this disgusting display, expect to be called to my office." "You can't," Brian started. "I can, and I will. Move." As security escorted them out, Brian looked back at me. The rage in his eyes promised retribution. Ms. Thompson approached my desk. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "Come with me. We need to document that bruise on your arm while it's fresh." As I gathered my things, I heard the whispers starting, some supportive, some hostile, most just shocked. The carefully maintained social order had cracked, and no one knew what would happen next. Walking down the hallway with Ms. Thompson, I thought about patterns, about escalation, about the footsteps that had saved me for now. "This isn't over," I said quietly. "No," she agreed. "It's just beginning. But Rebecca, you did the right thing, standing up to them, refusing to comply. That took incredible courage. It's what my mom would have done." "From what I remember of her, yes, she would have been proud." We reached her office, and she gestured for me to sit. As she prepared her documentation forms, she said, "You know they'll retaliate. Boys like Brian, with that much to lose. That much institutional protection they don't give up easily." "I know. Are you prepared for that?" I thought of Mom's final words to me, whispered through cracked lips in that sterile hospital room. "Promise me, Mija, when you see someone using power to hurt others, don't look away. Don't stay silent. Find the pattern. Amplify the voice." "Yes," I said. "I'm prepared." Ms. Thompson studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "All right then, let's begin." As I signed the incident report in Ms. Thompson's office, my phone buzzed with notifications, 47 messages in 10 minutes. I didn't need to read them to know what they said. "Don't look at those," Ms. Thompson advised, noting my glance at the screen. "Document them, yes, but don't let them get in your head." Too late. The glimpse I'd caught, "Psycho bitch, you're dead. Watch your back," was enough to know Brian's retaliation had already begun. That night, I sat at my grandmother's kitchen table, Mom's journal open beside my laptop. Abuela moved quietly around the kitchen, making her special mole, the one she used to make when Mom had difficult cases. "You're doing something dangerous," she said without turning around. It wasn't a question. Mom would have wanted me to. Your mother also would have wanted you alive and safe. I looked at the journal entry I'd been reading. The most dangerous moment in confronting systematic abuse isn't the initial exposure, it's the retaliation phase. Cornered predators become desperate. Desperate predators become violent. I can't back down now. Abuela, other girls, I know. She set a plate in front of me, touched my cheek gently. You are so much like her. Just be careful. Mija, I cannot lose you too. By morning, the social media assault had reached critical mass. A video of the classroom incident edited to remove context, showing only me refusing to apologize, had been posted across every platform. The comments were a masterclass in victim blaming. Stuck-up bitch thinks she's too good for Brian. She's probably a lesbian. Someone needs to teach her a lesson. But between the hate, something else emerged. A direct message from an account with no profile picture. You're not the first. Check the third-floor supply closet. Behind the boxes. E. I found Emma Chen during second period, hiding in the library's furthest corner. Asian, petite, with haunted eyes that reminded me of the victims in Mom's case files. You messaged me, I said, sitting across from her. She glanced around nervously. I shouldn't have. But you did. Why, Emma's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone, showing me a photo. This was me freshman year, before, and the girl in the picture glowed with confidence. Nothing like the shadow sitting before me. Tyler Brooks, she whispered. At Connor's lake house party. Brian held me down while Tyler, she couldn't finish. When I tried to report it, Principal Morrison said I was confused, that I'd been drinking, that accusing star athletes would ruin my future, not theirs. Emma, I'm so sorry. There are others. Sarah Mills transferred last year. Jessica Reeves dropped out. Madison Torres tried to... Her voice broke. She's in therapy now. We all got the same treatment. First comes the assault, then the intimidation, then the social destruction if you don't stay quiet. Will you testify if Ms. Thompson... I can't. Emma gathered her things. My parents, they just wanted to go away. They think if I keep quiet, graduate, I can leave it all behind. She stood to leave, then paused. That supply closet. There's a notebook. Katie Morrison, the principal's daughter, she documented everything before her dad made her burn it, but she kept one copy, hidden. The next 2 days blurred together in a haze of harassment and discovery. My tires were slashed. Slut was spray-painted on my locker. During PE, someone stole my clothes and replaced them with a dog collar. But I was building something bigger than they knew. The notebook Emma mentioned contained dates, names, patterns going back 3 years, 12 girls, 12 cases of assault or attempted assault, all involving football players, all covered up. I cross-referenced Katie Morrison's notes with social media, yearbooks, transfer records. The pattern was clear and damning. Thursday afternoon, I presented my findings to Ms. Thompson. She sat silent for a long moment after I finished, then picked up her phone. Detective Williams, it's Sharon Thompson. That case we discussed, I have evidence. Significant evidence. While she made calls, I stared at the bulletin board behind her desk. Photos of smiling students at school events, awards ceremonies, graduations. How many of those smiles hid trauma? Rebecca, Ms. Thompson said after hanging up, what you've compiled here, this is enough to launch a federal investigation. But I need you to understand once this goes official, there's no stopping it. The backlash will be severe. It already is. It will get worse. These boys, their families, the Booster Club, they have resources, lawyers, influence. I thought of Emma's haunted eyes, Sarah's transfer, Madison's suicide attempt. And if I don't, how many more girls? She nodded slowly. All right, Detective Williams will be here tomorrow. We'll need The door burst open. Brian Mitchell stood there, face twisted with rage, breathing hard like he'd been running. "You bitch!" he snarled at me. "You have no idea what you've done." "Mr. Mitchell," Ms. Thompson stood. "You cannot be here." "Shut up." He advanced into the room. "My dad just got a call. Something about an investigation, about false accusations. Security is on the way," Ms. Thompson warned. "I don't care." Brian's control had shattered completely. "You think you can destroy my life? Take away my future over what? Because I asked you out. You assaulted Emma Chen," I said quietly. "You held her down while Tyler raped her. You've done it to others. You thought your victims would stay silent forever." His face went white, then red. "You don't know anything. Katie Morrison documented everything before you forced her father to bury it. Dates, times, victims. 3 years of systematic sexual assault by you and your teammates. Lying bitch." He lunged forward. I'd been expecting it. Mom always said cornered predators were predictable. I sidestepped, using his momentum against him, and he crashed into the filing cabinet. Security arrived then, restraining him as he screamed threats. "This isn't over. My dad will bury you. You'll regret this. You hear me? You'll regret this." As they dragged him out, his words echoed in the sudden silence. Miss Thompson locked the door behind them, her hands shaking slightly. "Well," she said, "there's no going back now." That night, Ridgemont exploded. The school board called an emergency meeting. Parents flooded social media with accusations and counter-accusations. News vans appeared outside school. The hashtag Ridgemont Reckoning began trending. But in my bedroom, surrounded by Mom's journals and my growing evidence files, I felt strangely calm. The pattern was exposed. The voices were being amplified. My phone rang. Unknown number. Rebecca Martinez, a male voice. Older. Tired. "This is Coach Rodriguez, assistant football coach. I need to talk to you about what you're investigating. I have information." We met at a diner outside town. Coach Rodriguez looked like he hadn't slept in days. He slid a flash drive across the table. "Security footage," he said. "From the locker room. Team parties. Things I should have reported years ago." His voice cracked. I told myself I was protecting the program, building character, but I was just enabling monsters. Why now? My daughter just started high school, different school, thank God. But when I heard what they did to you in that classroom, the barking, he rubbed his face. I imagined someone doing that to her, and I realized I'm complicit in all of it. The flash drive contained everything: video evidence of assaults, recordings of Brian bragging about breaking in new girls, Principal Morrison explicitly telling victims to stay quiet for the good of the school. I watched from Ms. Thompson's office as Brian Mitchell was arrested. He looked smaller somehow, stripped of his jersey and swagger. As they led him past the window, our eyes met. The rage was gone, replaced by something else: fear. The predator had become prey. "How are you holding up?" Ms. Thompson asked. "I keep thinking about my mom," I admitted. "She used to say that evil thrives in silence, that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing." Edmund Burke, your mother was a wise woman. She was, but she also said something else, that real change doesn't come from punishment alone. It comes from changing the culture that allowed the abuse to flourish. That afternoon, as investigators interviewed victims and witnesses, I stood in the empty cafeteria where this all began. where I'd refused to be Brian Mitchell's conquest, where I'd chosen patterns over popularity, truth over safety. Emma Chen appeared beside me. "I testified," she said softly, "told them everything. That was incredibly brave. You showed me it was possible." She paused. "Others are coming forward too. Sarah's flying back from Oregon. Madison's ready to talk. Even some girls who graduated, they're calling Detective Williams." "The pattern," I murmured. "Once you see it, you can't unsee it." "What happens now?" Emma asked. I thought about Mom's final project, the one she never got to complete. A program for schools, teaching students to recognize predatory behavior, to support victims, to change the culture from within. Now we make sure it never happens again. I said. The footsteps behind us were familiar now. Ms. Thompson approached with a woman I recognized from Mom's photos, Dr. Patricia Hendricks, her research partner. "Rebecca," Dr. Hendricks said, eyes warm with memory. "You look just like Elena. She'd be so proud." "Dr. Hendricks is here to help implement a new program," Ms. Thompson explained. "One based on your mother's work. We're calling it Safe Space. A peer education and support network," Dr. Hendricks elaborated, "teaching students to recognize harassment patterns, support victims, create accountability. We want you to help design it." I felt Mom's presence then, stronger than I had since her death. Her work would continue. Her voice would echo through every student who learned to say no, every victim who found support, every predator who faced consequences. 6 months later, I stood before a packed auditorium. Ridgemont High looked different now, not physically, though the trophy case glorifying football had been replaced with a student art display. The change was deeper, in how students walked the halls without fear, how voices weren't silenced, how patterns couldn't hide in plain sight. "My mother once told me," I began, addressing the crowd of students, parents, and educators who'd come to learn about Safe Space, "that every predator has a pattern, and every victim has a voice. Our job is to find the pattern and amplify the voice." In the audience, Emma Chen sat with Madison Torres and Sarah Mills. Coach Rodriguez was there, now heading the reformed athletics program. Ms. Thompson smiled from the front row. Even Katie Morrison had returned, no longer silenced by her father's shame. "What happened at Ridgemont wasn't unique," I continued. "Similar patterns exist in schools across the country. But what can be unique is our response. Not just punishment after the fact, but prevention. Not just individual justice, but cultural change. Change doesn't come from one person standing up to a bully, though that's where it starts. Change comes when we all refuse to be bystanders, when we recognize that silence is complicity, when we choose patterns over popularity, truth over comfort, justice over convenience. But I hadn't. And that refusal, that moment of standing firm when everything in me wanted to run, had started an avalanche. Brian Mitchell was serving 3 years in juvenile detention, with adult charges pending. Tyler Brooks, Connor Walsh, and Marcus Chen faced similar fates. Principal Morrison had been fired, his teaching license revoked. 12 civil lawsuits were proceeding against the school district. My mother died before she could see her work completed, I concluded. But she left all of us the tools to continue it. Every time someone recognizes a predatory pattern, every time a victim's voice is heard, every time a community chooses justice over comfort, her legacy lives on. The applause was thunderous, but one sound cut through it all. Footsteps. Measured, purposeful, approaching the stage. Detective Williams climbed the steps, a folder in his hand. Ms. Martinez, I thought you should be the first to know. The federal investigation is complete. 37 additional victims have been identified across 3 schools. All are receiving support. Charges have been filed against 18 perpetrators and 6 administrators who covered up the abuse. He handed me the folder. Your evidence was crucial. Your courage started this. Thank you. As he walked away, I opened the folder. On top was a photo Mom and me at her last birthday, both laughing at some forgotten joke. Beneath it, a note in Detective Williams's handwriting, found this in Brian Mitchell's file. He had been researching you before that first approach. Your mother's work had already threatened their system. They targeted you specifically, hoping to silence her voice forever. They failed. I stared at the photo, understanding finally washing over me. This hadn't been random. The bullying, the escalation, the attempt to break me, it had all been calculated. They'd known exactly who I was, whose daughter I was, what threat I represented. And still, they'd failed. Because Mom had prepared me. Because Ms. Thompson had listened. Because Emma had found courage. Because Coach Rodriguez had chosen conscience. Because a community had decided that enough was enough. The footsteps that had saved me in that classroom hadn't been lucky timing. They'd been the echo of every step taken toward justice, every voice raised against abuse, every pattern exposed to light. As the auditorium emptied, I stood alone on the stage, Mom's photo in my hand. We did it, Mom, I whispered. We found the pattern. We amplified the voices. We changed the ending. Outside, new footsteps filled the halls, confident, unafraid, walking toward a future where predators couldn't hide behind jerseys and trophies, where victims weren't silenced by shame, where patterns were recognized and broken before they could destroy lives. In my pocket. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I'm a sophomore at Washington High. Something's happening here. Similar pattern. Can safe space help? I smiled. Hearing Mom's voice one last time, the work is never done, mija, but each voice we amplify makes the next one stronger. Yes, I typed back. We can help. You're not alone. Because that's what predators fear most, not individual courage, but collective resistance. Not one voice, but a chorus. Not a single footstep, but an army marching toward justice. And we were marching still.